The very first game that I made was a game called Sorcery on the Apple II Plus that I won the grade 13 science fair with it. And it was almost a clone of Ultima 1, but it was quite complete. It was the first real complete game that I actually made at that point. Then I went off to university and still interested in making games, but just for the fun of it, and that's when I started to make a game that would end up being Legends of Murder that was published by Softdisk, my first published product when I was 20 years old. Actually, interestingly enough, the guys from id Software worked there, and so when I was 20, I submitted my Legends of Murder to them to get published, and they liked it, and they paid me $1,200, and I signed the deal with Jay Wilbur, who I'd end up working with later. And John Romero edited my code, which was really kind of cool, and he remembers that to this day.
I remember Legends of Murder was a pretty cool, it was a murder mystery game, and it was like a text adventure, but with the graphics at the top of the screen. And I thought it was pretty cool because it was kind of innovative. I hadn't seen a game where you could kind of control a character up at the top of the screen and have like a text adventure at the same time. It was really cool.
I was making SolarWinds, and that's when I heard about shareware. And I was playing shareware on the computers at the university, and so I sent SolarWinds to Scott Miller at Apogee, and sadly got a rejection letter. And he said, "No, it's not quite what we're looking for." But he put me in the direction of Tim Sweeney. He gave me Tim Sweeney's CompuServe email address. And so Tim was very excited about it. And then 8 months later, they published it.
And James Schmalz, around 1992 or 1993, sent in an early version of SolarWinds, which was incredibly impressive, amazing art. I was blown away by it, and called James up right away, and we talked and started the relationship.
And right at that time, when I graduated and got a job offer for a real job, I think it was at Motorola. My parents said, "Oh, you got to take the real job, like $1,200 a month versus this much better prospect." And so I ended up deciding to try to make another game, hoping I'll make, instead of $1,200 a month, I'll make $2,400 a month, and I could live like a normal person. My parents were very disappointed that I made that decision to go ahead with making games full time, but during that next 10 months is when I made Epic Pinball, and everything very much changed from then on.
I went out to Finland to this thing called Assembly, I think it was 92 or 93, and I brought back this really cool pinball demo game. And so I showed it to James when we were one time, he was at my house, and we were working on SolarWinds, and he goes, "I can make that." And I said, "James, if you could make that, you'll make $1 million.
And I just couldn't believe it. I said, well, if they're not going to do something with that, it certainly sparked my ideas to make something successful. So I decided at that point to make a pinball game.
So James is really multi-talented. Has the combination of the ability to program and do art and do modeling in 3D and everything. But his programming skills are the most interesting aspect. So Epic Pinball was a pure assembly language code, thousands of lines of assembly language, and he built that code to write the first pinball table, and then to create the additional pinball tables, he copied and pasted that code and modified it. And so by the end of the result, you had like 12 pinball tables. Each one was thousands of lines of copied and pasted code. I didn't realize this till I asked James, "Hey, why don't you add this one little pause feature to each game?" He's like, "Oh no, that would take an immense amount of work. I'd need to do it 12 times."
I wonder how many people at D realize he was that multi-talented, right? Because probably now, 20 years later, people don't, you need a whole team of people to do games. It's not just a one. But I wonder if people realize once upon a time James was the whole thing, everything.
In fact, it was an absolute perfect project where James' combination of art, game design, and programming just came together in this awesome orchestra of the end product, which was the most beautiful looking pinball game ever built.
And it surprised everybody because I think the first month it made like $30,000 to $50,000. So I went from $1,200 to $40,000 each of the following months for quite a long time. And I think at that point it was either Doom or Wolfenstein had come out, and so I was like really interested in learning 3D programming. And so that's where my interests were at that point. But they were like, oh, there's money here, money to be had here if you want to do a sequel. And I said, I have no interest, very little interest. I don't have the passion to keep doing the pinball. And they said, oh, well, the easy solution is just hire some people to do it. You know what needs to be done. Hire some people and tell them how to do it. And so that's basically how the idea of Digital Extremes formed.
In the early 90s, I was looking for work, and a friend of mine on the campus of the University of Waterloo spotted an ad looking for a video game programmer. He tore off the little piece of paper, brought it home for me, on which was written the name James Schmalz and a phone number, which I called. And James agreed to give me an interview, and he brought me on board to write the engine for Extreme Pinball.
So James came up with the original idea for Unreal, and he had hand plotted all the graphics himself. I mean, just by entering mathematical equations into a spreadsheet and running them through his graphics program. And at the time, James had originally planned to build the game, and Tim Sweeney came on and said, well, why don't I make the editor for it?
The whole process of Unreal, or at least for me, it didn't really become Unreal until later on, but at first it was actually a cool idea. It was like robots, and I had my terrain map, but then I'd had a height map or another terrain map on top with a height map, and then it was all flattened together, and you could shoot your robot, and you could shoot missiles and like blow holes and start building your own, like forming your own kind of cavern as you go through. I hadn't really come up with a great idea for what the design of the game would be. It was just kind of a tech demo at that point. If people, search for early Unreal screenshots, they'll see the red dragon that I was quite proud that I made. And at that point, it was all me. It was pretty obvious to see that it needed to be a bigger project, and that's kind of when Tim came on to build the editor, and then eventually Cliffy came on, and I hired some people, and they hired some people, and many years later, Unreal began to take shape.
I didn't really start working together with James until the Unreal Engine really started up and coming. James had the first version of what would eventually become Unreal, and we all kind of came together at one point and just started working together. James was doing skins and doing levels and doing designs. I was building my own levels and doing my own textures, and before we knew it, the initial kind of primordial ooze formed that created Unreal.
It was just an amazing genesis of elements coming together as the entire Unreal team, and none of us had ever shipped a 3D game before. Just figured it out as we went and built the project. And that was a project that was never more than 6 months away from shipping throughout its entire 3.5-year development cycle. Later into development, we realized that it just wasn't working to coordinate so many people virtually. So we decided to get together. And since James actually had an office at that point, we decided, let's go up to Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. And so we got together and wildly overcrowded the small Digital Extremes office up there for about a year as all of us finished building the game.
That was finishing Unreal in the last year. Like literally, we were working like 80-hour work weeks. It was crazy just to get it done. So it was just...
We were working till 2 or 3 at night, and then I'd get up and I'd go get coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever, get my 5 hours of sleep in and come back and be super excited to rush in and get going again.
I was working like these 18-hour on and then go home and sleep, and so I kind of cycle through the day, and there was always people in the office no matter what time of day or night you came in, and it was pretty crazy, but really fun, really rewarding time.
The very first publicity we got, which was the first time ever, and this is a testament to Dee's great graphic skills and art skills, and it was the first time they'd ever put a real screenshot on a cover. Right? And that was, I think to me, that was kind of like, we need to always do this. They should always be screenshots. We should never be having these kind of fake marketing imagery things. We should always show the customers what the game looks like. And I think a lot of people end up copying us after that.
There are 2 foods that I was introduced to when I was spending my stint in Waterloo, and the first one was sushi. James Schmalz actually introduced me to sushi for the first time, and then there was a place called Curry and Hurry, which was just this giant bucket of chicken curry in the back that they just take a ladle to and just throw it on a vat of rice, and that was your lunch. And we'd all eat that and share a confined office space, and you can imagine the amount of methane in that room alone.
Yeah, Waterloo was just this blur of the Digital Extremes office because I pretty much never left there, except for the occasional. I think we call in curry in a hurry or go over to the Mongolian grill. That was basically the only things I was eating then.
Curry in a hurry because it was so quick and gross.
One thing that really irked me was that the entire development team loved this restaurant, this Indian restaurant called Curry in a Hurry, which to me was absolutely putrid.
Yeah, so Unreal shipped, and we had, hoped it would do well because we had spent all our money. Every last bit of our money was spent, which was a very shocking and stressful thing.
So we decided that we'd create a level pack for Unreal that would focus on multiplayer, just to show that, hey, we can really do this right.
So we just kept working on it. We'd never had like okay, we're going to be done by November or March or anything like that. We just kept putting more and more and more into it, and eventually that turned out to be a good thing.
As we were working on it, we just kind of realized it was bigger than an add-on pack, and that it really was an opportunity to make a really cool and kind of new type of game.
That little level pack morphed into a full project and became Unreal Tournament, which shipped in 1999. And that was an incredibly polished and fun experience.
And certainly as we got closer to shipping Unreal Tournament, we saw that this could be something really quite special, because that was the game that got most played when we were playing games around the office. So you could feel that something really special was being made because it felt pretty awesome.
At one point we actually talked about merging Epic and DE. And it just turned out to be a nightmare. The Canadian government basically wanted DE, pay your taxes at the door. Whatever value this company is worth, we want you now, pay us tax on it. It's just like, are you crazy? James would have been just left with this huge bill and no money to pay it. And so we called it off. But I think both companies have been flourishing quite nicely lately. So I think it was probably for the best.
We had people kind of all around Southern Ontario, and the lease was up, and in fact they kicked us out because we were so gross. I thought they were going to let us go month to month, but they said, sorry, you're done. So everybody kind of worked from home, but we were all just talking about where would be a good spot to go find a new office. Should it be in Waterloo again? It could be in Toronto, it could be anywhere. So I think we looked around, and the thing that actually brought us to London was the cool office space we found in North London. It had the pond out front. It was all our own space. It really was a nice layout. It was just about the right size, and so everybody looked at it, and everybody was entirely convinced this is the spot. So it was all because of an office space. Pitching Dark Sector was, and I think only Steve and Meredith can attest to this, that how crazy it was. We had gotten to the point where we had finished a large chunk of an awesome game with a new technology, gotten a video out there that everybody was crazy excited about, and we just thought we were golden because this was going in a fantastic direction. We knew it was going to be great, this sci-fi amazing game with this crazy technology.
We had people telling us to make it kind of dark and gritty and put eye patches on the character to make him more relatable to people. So I think creatively, it was always, the hardest thing to deal with was always hearing creative input, forcing creative input into what we were doing.
And somebody suggested that he'd be able to morph his arm into a spoon that could spoon up lava and throw it at people.
People looked at it, and the consensus was, not another fucking sci-fi game. And it just blew our minds. And now with Warframe and seeing how popular it is, it's just total justification that they were wrong and we were right.
I don't know, I guess it has stayed similar in a lot of ways, but I guess when you get to a certain size, it can't be quite as casual as it was.
We have HR. Do you know how weird that is? When I joined DE, it was like a company meeting was 5 out of 7 guys sitting on couches in this tiny little office suite. Maybe there was pizza, maybe there wasn't. I'm sitting in a gigantic theater that is probably bigger than the original office suite was.
When I first started, we were so small. I think the size of the company is tremendously different but I think the mentality of the company is very much the same.
Everyone goes from having no kids to now there's lots of kids at Christmas parties, and some of the senior people, work-life balance and being able to watch their kids grow up become a thing. So there were changes like that where it was just every waking hour was work to having other things happen in your life. And I think those are the biggest changes for me.
Like when I started working here, it was about 20, 25 people. So we've grown a huge amount since then. But the cool thing is that I think culturally it still very much feels the same as it did when it was smaller.
The one thing that's always kind of impressed me, and one of the things that's kept me here as long as I've been here, is the idea that even though we've grown to a studio that's almost 200 people, the feeling is generally still the same as it was when it was 25 people when I started. It feels like home, as cliche or as cheesy as that might sound. It's a very comfortable place, and I think what's good is that you come to trust the people that you've worked with for a long time, and while you may not always agree, and there may be fights and stuff, just like there are in any other family, you can kind of trust that people generally will have your back.
The dudes. Code will go, and once you stop touching it all the time, you'll stop caring, I think. But the dudes, the bromance. I deal with Steve every day. We fight every other day, and Scotty, we're fighting, and that's those people that you're involved with, have been fighting with or working with for so long. That would be really hard to move away from if we ever retire.
You know what, to be honest, I think those first years for me will always stick in my head, because being new to the industry and kind of the way that things were back in the good old days, where that you worked crazy hours and you worked with the same crew, and to do 16 or 17 hours wasn't uncommon in a day. And while under normal circumstances that would just be unbearable, it was fantastic.
And I met a whole bunch of people in Waterloo who were fantastic, and they're still among my closest friends. And I own a home now, and I drive a car, and I have a retirement savings plan, and all of that stuff is because James gave me a chance. In a way, the fact that James remembered that I worked on, or that I chose to draw fantasy castles in high school. Pretty much everything I have in my life now, except for my family, has come about because James gave me a chance. So when I'm old, I think that there'll be a lot more than just one thing to remember about DE.
I guess it would probably be working on Warframe, because it's been kind of a dream come true to finally work on a project that I had this much, ability to just throw in what I liked. So that probably won't come around again anytime soon, so it's very cool.
I've made some really lifelong friends here, and I think hopefully they're still around. A few of them are older than me, but I think it's the friendships and the good times. Like some of my best memories here are, when it's 3 a.m. in the morning and you're waiting for the build to end, and you're just like, just make it stop.
Is everyone joking and saying lunches? So what the answer is right now? No, the honest answer and cheesy answer is the people, for sure. I've been here a very long time, and if you don't like the people you're working with, you're not going to come to work. So I feel very grateful for the people I work with.
I guess it's the games, which is crazy. It's looking at D2 and thinking about how proud we all were that we shipped that. It was thinking about the struggle that got us through Dark Sector. Those things.
Maybe that we made it to 20 years. I'm pretty proud of that. When I'm 90 and remember back, there's probably 50 different things I'll remember that are all equally big.
Congratulations to everybody. It's a huge milestone to have made, and it sounds like you guys are doing fantastic. And I cannot wait to see what hopefully the next 20 years, should my kids not cause me to be committed to an insane asylum, to see what the next 20 years will do for you guys.
I would offer DE advice, but to be honest, it seems like with the success of Warframe, they have largely figured out this new free-to-play market, and from looking at the game and talking to people up there, it really seems like they have their finger on the pulse, and they really understand the one constant in this industry is change. You either evolve or you die. So, congrats guys on all the 20 years, keep crushing it.
20 more. Time flies. It goes fast, so I'm sure these 20 more are going to go fast too.
Oh man, I'm just glad that you guys are still around. It's rare for any video game company to last that long in the business, and it looks like you guys are just getting bigger and better and bigger and better. And Meredith says you're up to 200 people now. That's insane. But hey, Warframe is doing great, and kudos to you guys.
Well, it's been a crazy 20 years, starting out in the early shareware days and then going up through retail 3D game development. The industry has gone through some really hard times, and very, very proud to see Digital Extremes has completely snatched victory from the jaws of defeat and coming out with Warframe. It's that sort of business model that's going to revolutionize the game industry the next time around. And Digital Extremes is back on top after 3 or 4 generations of being a leading game company. So congratulations, everyone. I'm really proud to have been a part of it all.
Oh, hi there. Look, it's snowing in New York. That reminds me of my time working with Digital Extremes helping get Unreal out the door. And we did, and it was awesome. I'm sorry I can't be there to help you celebrate your 20th anniversary, but I'm there in spirit, and Canada is here in physical reality. And wait, one more person wants to say hello.
Hi!
What do you want to say?
Happy 20th anniversary!
Have fun, guys.
Huge congrats. There are few game companies that have lived 20 years. It's a huge milestone. And if you hit 30 years, you're like one of 3 or something. So keep going, and keep kicking ass. And, I'll keep kicking ass too.
Congratulations, Digital Extremes, on your 20th anniversary.
Congratulations for making it 20. Not very many game development companies make it to 20 years. Very few of them make it to the level of success that DE is experiencing now. DE's probably had a lot of good life lessons, and that's probably the reason why they're so successful now. And it's super exciting for us to see. Right? We're big DE fans up here. Another 20. Keep going.
I think it's very fitting that we're celebrating DE this year. 2013's been an interesting year for DE, a pretty hard year. And the fact that we're ending on, probably the best position the company's ever been in is pretty fantastic. So, I don't know, I think advice-wise, I would just say let's keep on keeping on.
I think Digital Extremes is an amazing company. It's Digital Extremes is its people and its relationships. And what flows out of that are some great video games. I think that Digital Extremes is going to be around for 20 years longer or more. They'll be there. I think we'll be here as long as we make video games.
I think if you don't can me, I think I'm here until the company goes under or I retire. Either way, I'm here forever. So yeah, another 20 years would be good.
You know what? I'm amazed that it's been 20 years. Personally, it seems like it was not too long ago that we were doing the 10-year anniversary. I hope that we avoid long-winded speeches about frozen turkeys and things like that.
Oh, I mean, I'm not retired yet. DE has to last me at least another 10 years. I got mortgage payments to make, so come on, DE, you can do it.
Well, I can't believe it's been 20 years. The time just goes by so fast. I think DE has something amazingly special, and I've never worked at a place like DE that is just so sincere, so genuine. I hope for many, many more years.
Keep kicking ass. I think we're on a huge upswing here with Warframe, and I think let's just keep going.
20 more years? God, that's a long time. Here's to the future, and to us all kind of growing old together.
When I first got my job here 13 or 14 years ago, everything the guys could talk about, and I didn't really even understand at the time, all they could talk about was owning our own thing and doing our own thing and not working for other people. So
it's so exciting to see that's what we're doing right now. That we've built something that no one else has, and someone else doesn't own it. So I'm very excited about that independence and seeing DE work on a game from top to bottom, from the delivery and the concept, and really only being beholden to themselves to make it awesome. So I hope they continue to do that.
We have a lot of people that are passionate about games, and I think the great thing that's very much the same between this year in its 20th year and the first few years is that we're now making games with our own money, as we did back then, making the games that we wanted to, as we did back then. This transition that we've just gone through has really, in many ways, honestly brought us back to the roots of what DE was when I formed it. It's certainly not anything I ever could have conceived of back, even 15 years ago, that would be at this size and be able to manage things as well as we do. So it's that's, to me, the James back then would have been entirely blown away and dumbfounded by where Digital Extremes is today. But I think very happy to know that we've gotten to where we are in that final year of the 20 years.